Of course. As soon as I press the button, my nose just gets congested. I don't know what's going on. Unbelievable. What's good, gamers? Little941 here with a video about a game that I've talked about, I think, twice before. Today, we're going to be going over the Roboquest Endless update that recently came out last week, I think? I'm not entirely sure, but I wanted to talk about this game again because I'm still fucking playing it, because it's crack, and I thought it'd be a cool idea to check out some of the new content that they just added. So yeah, not too long of a video today, just gonna go through some cool stuff that I like and some initial thoughts. So yeah, alright, before we get too deep into the video, if y'all could click like and hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be very, very cool. Put out 2 videos a week, Tuesdays and Fridays at noon Eastern time. Hell yeah. Alright, so the Endless update for Roboquest. I am a huge fan. It is more Roboquest, it's more shit to do in Roboquest. That is awesome. I don't think I need to explain why. It's just that yes, more Roboquest, hell yeah. Endless mode is the highlight because it's the Endless update, and it's, well, endless, based on this screenshot that they shared on Twitter that has them, like, being level 500 or some shit with all of the items. That's really cool. It's got unique boss pairings, there's remixed layouts, random music, and new modifiers called singularities and glitches to increase your difficulty as you progress beyond the regular level scaling. Singularities are mechanical changes, and you get one after fighting the new duo bosses in Endless. There's one that adds tougher enemy variants. There's one that makes some enemies have an eye patch so their crit spot is protected. One that pisses me off, but I think is totally fair, is the virus scrap one that makes some of the healing cells dropped by enemies red and evil, damaging you instead of healing. And then glitches are statistical changes that pop up after every non-boss level. Simple things like taking more damage from certain types of attacks, longer cooldowns, increased debuff durations, etc. Just stat changes that affect your ability to do something. They don't add new complexity, if that makes sense. I do think the initial scaling is much harsher than it probably should be, creating an even more pronounced feeling of feast or famine than the real game mode already has. My runs either end at the first boss, or I go for an hour without stopping because I got a lucky orange weapon that carried me through the first 3 levels, and I was able to get my build off the ground and running. I also think the high enemy density, which is something I love, usually, and I don't hate it here, but the high enemy density and mostly shorter range engagements devalues certain build paths and increases that feeling of that harsher difficulty spike at the start. I find myself never taking any of the longer range precision weapons, and instead opting for splash damage and ricochets to wipe out as many enemies as possible per shot. Elementalist Ball Genius being something that becomes a must-have no matter what I'm going for in the rest of the build, just because it's this massive orb that just hits and pierces and does a bunch of damage, plus the elemental effects of whatever you're running. It's extremely useful, specifically in these situations, more so than I found it in the normal game mode. It's just, you feel very limited. Like, the Shark Sniper just isn't going to do enough, given the standard encounter layout with all the enemies present at once on screen. And especially with the bosses too, right? Like, Iris and Uncle Jim, their arenas have the boss being far enough away that longer range options can do really, really well in those situations. Here, I don't know, I think it's a problem with the duo bosses as well, to be honest with you, where, like, they're cool in concept, but putting certain bosses in arenas that they weren't designed around just flat out sucks. Like this tiny dome arena from the start of the game is not something that I want to be fighting Uncle Jim in, who is a boss that is built around climbing up the tower, right? The Judge Ball being in a tiny area as well. I just, there's so much on screen, and like bullet hell, cool, that's awesome, but there's so many overlapping projectiles and they're so big, plus all the extra modifiers taking increased damage, and then you walk, like, you realize, like, you walk up to a boss with lesser tier gear and less levels and XP and perks as a result than you would if you were walking up to one of the earlier game bosses, and then it's 2 of them, they're both tanky, and they both have overlapping attacks. I don't hate it, it's cool, and I like that, having to change up the way that you play, but I think the initial curve is a little too high. Maybe they have a little bit too much HP for the early game, I don't know, but it's not something that I'm the biggest fan of. It doesn't ruin the experience, like I said, it's awesome, just not ideal, I guess. Not ideal is the way that I would describe it, so. For the rest of it, having the random music accompany you through the remixed layouts is awesome, especially because it shows you off tracks that you might not get to hear often, based on the route that you normally take in the main game. Same with the remixed maps. Getting the Aqua Station track while sprinting through the fields is great, or hearing the Moon theme go fucko mode so often, it just, oh god. Noise Scream is so fucking sick, man. Their music is like Klaus Badelt's He's a Pirate, but dubstep. I'm gonna get pregnant listening to it. God, it's so good. There's not much else to say, to be honest. The whole update was just endless mode and the save quit feature, which rocks, even if I know I won't use it, just because I don't have self-control, and if I ever came back to do a run in the middle of it, I'd just die from the lack of built-up muscle memory and trying to remember, oh, that's right, I was doing this in conjunction with this and timing up my abilities this way because of this buff that I've got. Like, I just die. So I'd rather just have my run be okay, we're gonna go now, and I end when it dies. Like, I'm not gonna stop and go do something else. But it's a nice quality of life feature, so nothing to complain about there. If you like Roboquest, this is more of it in all of the best ways. I've got a little bit of an issue with the difficulty spiking, but that's fine. That's me being bad, not a big deal. I'm giving this a resounding fuck yes, and I'm going to go play more now. Like, literally, after I'm done recording, I'm going to go play more because it's that fucking good. So, with that, like I said, that's the end of it for me. Have you checked out the new Roboquest Endless update? If you have, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, and the game in general, to be honest. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.